It back to what we've got here. Energy moves in spirals, and spirals are in everything. The easiest analogy to look at is get water and fill up your sink. And you can see that it's slowly going to glide down, and that's a linear fashion. So it's moving in a straight line. Just get your finger and stir it like that. All of a sudden it creates a whirlpool, same amount of energy, but now that water goes down, very simple. And I would like to relate that back to the raindrop. So we've got two raindrops. One of them is going to fall like this. The other raindrop is going to go inside a tornado. So both of these fall at the same time. They both have the same amount of input energy. However, this one here is going in a straight line, going through a resistance. This one here goes to what you call the phi ratio, which is 1.618. It's 33989. I'll just put it back simple.
Yeah, the other phi ratio is also this. Right? Yes. Yeah.
Correct. So this is what we call the mathematics of nature. The first time I started researching this, I found one of the Mars probes actually smashed into the surface of Mars, and they couldn't work out why. But when you actually look at a rocket taking off, the rocket arcs, it doesn't go on a straight line. If it actually went in a straight line, it'd have to use a lot more fuel because it's fighting through resistance. Yes. And this relates back to Einstein's E equals mc squared, because everything is curved space-time. But if you follow the curve of space-time, it goes to this ratio, 1.618. And when they look at it like that, they're looking at a spiral. Each section of this spiral keeps getting bigger when you break that up into sections of 1.618 every single time. And
this also on nature, the seashells and all have
seashells, the nautilus shell, correct.
The nautilus
shell is the very common one.
Fractals.
Yes.
Yes, correct. And if everything, basically, when you mention fractal, fractal means a small represents the big represents the small. It's only a matter of scale or dimensions. Okay, so for example, the cells in our body and the solar system have the same fractal. So everything in the universe is the same fractal, and that's what we do in metaphysics as well. It's the same thing. We use the phi ratio for everything, because everything is a fractal, the big to the small, small to the big.
Has anybody seen this sequence before?
Fibonacci.
Correct. And if you actually break this one down, these parts keep getting bigger in this exact ratio.
It takes the Fibonacci
And
sequence.
what I actually was attracted to the Fibonacci sequence about is they done a test where they had rabbits and they had pairs, and they've done them over 12 months. And actually when you sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12, you'll actually notice that the breeding pairs equal this exact number. When you have a look at plants and the way that the branches form, again, they use the same number.
Yeah, so
the nautilus shell that you mentioned, when you actually use this on the nautilus shell, each one of these sections, well, you go, that's the 1, that's the 2, that's the 3, this one here is the 5, and break that one here, so we've got an 8, and again, 13. Each one of these sections actually go up in that, all obviously using the 1.618 ratio, but all of them go to the Fibonacci sequence. So this is what you'd call the divine proportion, the golden mean, the mathematics of the universe, the universal principles.
Yeah, and it's when they look at it, we almost reach the golden mean, but we never reach it perfectly, and that's the whole point. The creation, the source would probably be the golden mean, like you just go into nothingness, right? So as we say in metaphysics, as you're creating, and the universe is expanding, each of the layers comes, you know, a little less closer to the golden mean, So as we go back into the spiral, back into the source, we're coming closer and closer to the golden mean. And so when you look at it from the space of an ascension, we are moving into a different level, or a higher level of consciousness. We're actually moving closer to the golden mean.
Correct.
So we are moving closer to the truth. We are moving closer to the universal principles.
But again, this is what we're talking about here. This is our reference point. Everything has to come from somewhere. So without this part here in the middle, we wouldn't really have that energy input in the first place. And we should actually look up in physics, where does energy come from? What is force? We're actually only looking at the after effect. We can look at, the very simple one is, I don't know if you guys have all seen this one, force equals mass times acceleration, which is simple as saying, for me to move this object, I have to have them three things coming into it. However, it doesn't actually say where the energy comes from in the first place. That gives me the energy to move my arm forward. We're only actually looking at the after effect, not where does the energy come from in the first place.